I grew up in a home that was full of music and arts and physics. My dad was a scientist, an inventor, and a medical doctor. So we had all this stuff there, and I was just around machines and that kind of stuff, and I always liked that. I wanted to get in the music business because I thought it was hip, slick, and cool. My parents said, no, you can't do that. Basically, they perceived everybody in the country music business at that point as a lowlife. And they said, but there's one guy we trust. And I went, who's that? They said, Owen Bradley. They knew him. They said, if you go talk to Owen Bradley and he says it's okay for you to be in the entertainment business, you can do it. Owen says it's okay. I get involved in this thing. I go to work at Starday under Jack Linneman, who was brilliant. He engineered, and if he was sick or got run over by a bus or something, I got a chance, you know, that kind of thing. It was a working studio. They cut demos all the time. At that point, we'd cut 3 masters in 3 hours, but 10 demos in 3 hours. And then I started selling equipment through Fanta Sound. We sold stuff to studios and broadcast stations. The first truck I built was for Neil Young. It was called the His Master's Wheels truck. And it was put together in 10 days. One of the Neve family brought the console down in a U-Haul truck. We had 2 Ampex, and I really liked the concept of having to put together a recording studio each day at each event. The truck would be the same, but the venue would be the completely different. Well, actually, this was really the next one. Mervyn was working there. Wayne was working there, and we decided to build a truck. And we didn't have enough money. We did it anyway. And we got to the point where we had to pick a console. Pretty important part. And Wally Wilson was peddling Sphere consoles then. And somewhere along the way, I heard about Dean Jensen and his transformers and his DC servo amp. So I go listen to one of these. This is a Sphere A. This is the simplest, oldest model they made. Well, it had to be what year we built the truck?
75.
75. It's probably a 75 console then. It has a wood cabinet. We were sort of the preferred vendor for audio for Vanderbilt, but we never really had sound equipment. We'd sublet it from everybody. So the idea of building this truck gets together where everyone says, you know, I'm an architect. And I went, do what? You know?
That's what I studied in college.
Yeah. So I said, well, that'll be great. That'll be a big help. Somebody that actually knows something, you know. So we started building this truck, and there's a lot of unique things about it. The most unique thing is the door. I call it the Luke pie door. It's pie-shaped. It swings in and out, and it doesn't occupy space inside the truck when it's open, which is different than most television trucks. One thing about our splitter box is a little bit different than most people's. The feed to here and the feed to the PA is transformer isolated. So there's not like one direct and one isolated. And every leg of every path had a ground lift switch. And that pulled us out of the fire more times than us being smart. We're doing Tears for Fears in someplace in Canada. Before we get there, we're not plugged in. They're just screwing around with the PA, and it's humming like a diesel motor. And they said, guys, I don't know if we can record like this. I said, I don't think we can. It's really loud. He said, could you help us fix it? And we went, sure, we'll help. It had no ground. That was it. We found a piece of old telephone cable and just stuck it on it. It's not like going to the studio every day where you know everything's hooked up just right. You know precisely how everything's going to work. It's extremely reliable. We had no clue what was going to happen next, and that was the special part. Certain bands had certain magic. The Kinks was one of them. Not a single person in that band I'd be anxious to hire as an individual studio musician, but as a group they were Loctite. There were lots of other recordings that sounded good and worked good. Neil Young, CS&Y, it just goes on and on and on, you know. Altogether, I did almost 5,900 projects in about 25 years. And that ranged from little dinky small things we could do 2 in a day to things where we'd be on part of a tour for people. I did almost all the King Biscuit Flower Hours for a long time. And I did almost all the Silver Eagle series, which was the country series of the same thing. And I recorded a lot of those, and I mixed a lot of those too. But I know in one week we did New York Philharmonic for Leonard Bernstein, the Doobie Brothers at the Palladium Theater, and Grandpa Jones. And then we started doing a lot of TV, which was great because we had enough, you know, usually like you get a whole day in advance to set up because they're setting up cameras, lights, and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And they're used to showing up early and taking care of things. TV stuff was interesting because we knew the multi-tracks could be used for anything later on, but we knew the 2-track mix might end up being the real mix. So there's tremendous pressure to get the 2-track mix super pretty. For one, they were going to edit to that. So we had to be very careful not to miss a lot of cues. Okay, I get hired by C.P. Boner, Dr. Boner, to put in a distributed sound system in the Ryman Auditorium. JBL 15-inch coaxials that pointed straight down. It was done as a television thing and changed the acoustics around the back of the auditorium where, you know, it was curved like that at the back. He hung a baffle here of this same stuff, Tectum. That's where I learned about Tectum, actually. Go listen to Sunday Morning Coming Down by Johnny Cash, a Chris Christopherson song from the Johnny Cash Show. Bill Walker did the arrangements, no producer. There wasn't a control room. They put a couple 604E speakers on some crates, had an 8-track sitting next to the console and a console. I think Jim ran the 8-track too. And just listen to what Jim Malloy did, and it's right. On a Frank DiMatteo console that was partially API and partially tank. We got interviewed once by recording engineer, producer, or whatever the magazine was. Give us a list of the 10 best projects you'd ever done. We came back with one. And it was a television show for Chet Atkins, which NPR still uses, called Chet Atkins and Friends. So on the Chet Atkins thing, we did 24-track recording. And Mark Repp, who was the audio guy for the Nashville Network, had another 24-track in the TV truck with our 4 audience mics, whatever number we had, probably 4, and about 8 or 10 others he had hung that just ran to that 24-track. So when it got time to post the show, every time there's a shot of an audience, the perspective matches. And it had a lot to do with how it felt. So we'd interface with these trucks. The Nashville Network would give us a switch box, so we could pick any camera in here to see on our monitors. But sometimes they'd be taking a picture of something else and we'd know what was coming next. We'd punch it up and look at it and go, oh my God, they got the wrong mics. We got real good at interfacing intercoms. So the whole deal is, we show up, we get power for the truck. The next very most important thing we do is communications. To the stage, to the TV truck, to the sound crew, whatever level was appropriate. Immediately then, the multi-tracks would get aligned every day. This console, when we bought it, was $32,000. It was still pretty cheap. It's worth more now than when we bought it. Mervyn could part this thing out probably for 60 grand. Because the Jensen CV Turbo amps, the octave metal equalizers.
Well, we had, MM 1200 and one on each side.
We had an 1100 and 1200. Both of them were modified to be something else.
But yeah, we had a 2-inch 2-track machine was here.
Yeah, that was in the way all the time.
Yeah. Which one, what kind of machine?
AG 440.
Okay.
2-track, running at 15 IPS.
And an upright 4-track. Right.
Another thing that was in the way all the time. But for some TV mixes, we had to mix to 4-track. So it'd be stereo, and then nothing, and then time code.
Yeah, we did the Farm Aid show. We built a rack over there and put other consoles, stacked them up.
We did Farm Aid.
So
we did both stages of Farm Aid in one truck.
Right.
We built a wooden rack that held submixers. I mean, those consoles have like 4 or 6 outputs. We'd take whatever they had. But rarely was it stereo. Mostly mono. This whole live thing, you either get it or you don't get it. And if you don't get it, it's okay. You can be a killer studio engineer. But if the distractions of doing it live supersede what you're hearing, it comes out bad. This was a natural for me. And the first time I sat down, I went, okay, I feel okay here. I feel more comfortable sitting behind a console than anything I've ever done in my life.
I'd like to introduce Mr. Danny Wendell to come up and say a few things about his good friend Johnny Rosen, and we're going to see a little bit of that Chet Atkins clip. Danny?
Good afternoon, everybody. For those of you that might know me, I'm on the wrong side of the microphone today. But to give you a little bit of background about myself, which is important to my relationship with Johnny over the years, I was the director of operations for Opryland Productions starting back in 1976, which was just a small studio behind the Opry House as it is today, which then became the Nashville Network. Then we bought CMT. You'll have to follow along with this because it gets pretty confusing. But we bought CMT, and we were bought by CBS, then we formed CBS Cable, then they merged with Viacom. Viacom then moved us over to the MTV network, and we started MTV Nashville. So all that being said, basically it was just to say that we did a lot of audio over the years. In the early years of cable television, we were doing a lot of concerts, a lot of television shows, and a lot of music videos. And we didn't have an audio truck, and the video trucks that we did have weren't capable of doing a lot of the audio that we were required to do. So needless to say, we called Johnny. We all knew Johnny, and Johnny had been around, and we'd always turn to him for his remote expertise. His ability to capture talent on tape in almost every situation was uncanny for those times, as you saw some of the examples in the video. Almost every other record label and production company in town knew the same thing, so at times it was kind of hard to get Johnny. I think we paid Johnny and Record Plant and so many other people so much money over the years that we built our own audio truck. But I first met Johnny in 1977 when we were doing the Volunteer Jam. But in 1987, we recorded a show for Cinemax Sessions, which Johnny alluded to. I think we both agree it's probably the best show that we've ever done of the thousands and thousands of hours of audio and video recording that we've done over the years. I think we got a little piece of that, if you want to play that for us. Jesse.
Forget
Other than having the best musicians in the world on the show and some of the best artists in the world, we also had some of the best engineers in the world working on that show, as Johnny alluded to earlier. It's one of those moments when everybody came together at the right time and the right place. Johnny also won an Emmy that year and deserved it. Beyond that, let me see, all of you at AES couldn't have picked a more deserving person for the Lifetime Achievement Award. It was always a pleasure and my fortune to have worked with Johnny and call him my friend for over 40 years. Congratulations.
Johnny, come on down. Let me read real quickly what this says. Lifetime Achievement Award presented to Johnny Rosen by the Nashville section of the Audio Engineering Society on behalf of the recording industry of Nashville for improving the quality of music recording through a lifetime of engineering and technical excellence. And Danny, I'll let you present this to Johnny.
Thanks.
Somebody wants to take a picture. Congratulations.
My name's Johnny Rosen, and I'm the luckiest guy in the world. First of all, I want to thank my wife, my 2 kids, for letting me never be home for years in order to get these recordings right. The other thing I want to thank, and this is weird, I had a bunch of notes I'm not going to use here. Here's the deal. Long before we were making records in Nashville, some people set the bar in Nashville for technical excellence. And most of you don't even know who those people are. The first one is Irving Waugh, who ran WSM. The next one was Jack DeWitt, who nobody's heard of, who was the chief engineer of WSM. And these guys were doing things that nobody else did. In, I guess, about 1954, they had a remote truck. It was a bread truck with a generator behind it and a microwave that shot over the WSM tower where DCN's tower is right now. They were doing that just years and years ago. Jack DeWitt started showing satellite weather pictures before the U.S. government acknowledged they had a satellite weather device. The next day, they released them on AP to everybody. So this bar got set really high. It got set high by Frances Preston. A lot of people over here remember her and what she did for Nashville, and lots of other people. And so they set the bar high, and then came along phenomenal producers like Chet Atkins, Owen Bradley, Chips Moman, God, I can't even name them, Kyle Lanning, I don't know how many others, there's buckets of them. And the magic they did was they took great musicians and had them play slightly better than they ever had before. And that's the magic. You saw it on this TV thing. They had tiny little rehearsals for that. But every one of those people, 2 of them at least are dead. Larry London died. Terry McMillan, I think, died. David Hungate was the bass player. Clayton Ivey was the piano player. Daryl Dipka, Michael McDonald, Emmylou Harris, and the Everly Brothers were the background singers. You know, I wonder if they got paid scale. Anyway, I'm just honored by this, and thank you for letting me do this. The most fun I've ever had with music is sitting behind a high-quality, simple audio recording console, being part of an audio photocopy service. So the next guy that got it after me, whether I remixed it or anybody else, they had a chance to get it right without me screwing it up. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you. Shorten up.